Namaste, Srivatsa sir. Srivatsa sir, now you can unmute.
Okay. Am I audible?
Yes. Basically, I was unmuted, so I reclaimed the host, and then perhaps now I think mute is actually taken up. Sir, shall we start?
Yeah.
Ravindra sir, make Srinivas, Dr. Srivatsa sir as a co-host, please.
Yeah, I can do that. Yeah. Is that okay now? So since the lecture is on the time management, we should start on time.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. Sudha madam, shall we start?
Yes, yes, let's start.
Srivatsa sir, I'll just speak for 2 minutes. And then after that, you can take over. Yeah. Hello, good evening, dear students. It's a long time we have been online. All this time we are meeting only offline. So once in a while, we all should meet on this. No, otherwise we will lose this habit of coming online and then giving you lectures without really seeing you all. Yes, I think we should record. Srivatsa sir, is the recording there with you or?
No, sir, it is not yet. You have to put no.
Okay, I think we'll have to start the recording. Yeah.
Yes, done,
Okay.
sir.
Okay, then. Yeah. Thanks for reminding us, sir. So, hello, good evening, dear students, parents who are present for this session. This is something which is long overdue. We were supposed to actually do this time management session almost actually 2 months back. Somehow things got postponed because of the exam schedule, test schedule at different places. So therefore, we couldn't do this at all. We couldn't find an appropriate time to do this time management session. So finally, we have got the right time perhaps today to talk about this. This is very important, I would say. How to plan your studies, how to really live on this 24 hours, especially during your first year and second year. If you know how to live on this 24 hours, remember students, then most of the things that in your life becomes very easy, very smooth. Now, how do we really plan this 24 hours and properly utilize? Remember when I say 24 hours, it will also include sleep, your eating, your all other things. Apart from studies, you should also have a little entertainment, recreation, exercise, everything. So it's not actually an easy task, especially for especially this age and time where our distractions are many and a lot of tasks are on our hand. So many times we lose our time in planning itself. So therefore, we thought it's high time that we should help you in planning, okay, to live in this 24 hours. To tell us about it, we have Dr. Srivatsa. Dr. Srivatsa, SK is well known to many of you. I think Sardar Patel students, second year students will know him. NIOS students will know him. But there are few students who also do not know about Srivatsa sir. And therefore, please bear with me. I will introduce sir to all the audience here so that the right context is set. Dr. Srivatsa is a BTech from UVC Bangalore and also a PhD in physics from Raman Research Institute. Very interesting combination. Initial BTech in engineering, and then later on went on to do his PhD in physics from a very prestigious organization called Raman Research Institute. It's actually near Maker Circle. It's one of the best actually in India that I can easily vouch for. He did his PhD there. And soon after his PhD, he worked as assistant professor, associate professor, and professor in PES Engineering College, and later on shifted to Atria Engineering College, and he served there as a faculty, and he has dealt with students, in fact, at all levels. He was also a founder of an organization, okay, which actually developed, if I'm not wrong, it's actually the, I forgot the name, sir. I mean, the math.
Brain stars and number methods.
Yes, sir. Brain stars. And he was teaching students from 3rd standard in brain stars up to 10th standard. So look at his spectrum. Okay, he can teach students who are in 3rd standard. He can teach students who are in high school, who are in PU, who are in engineering, and also he guides students for PhD, because he's an adjunct professor of Purna Pragna Research Institute in Bangalore. So therefore, he wears many hats, okay, as a supervisor, as a teacher, as an instructor, and whatnot. And his specialty is he can teach physics and mathematics. But now he's not going to teach maths or physics, but instead he's going to basically tell us about time management. So who, better person can you get than Srivatsa, who can actually wear so many hats and teach so many subjects. So he knows how to manage time. That is why he's able to do all that. So here is Dr. Srivatsa, who is going to actually enlighten us about the time management. All right. The word may actually look very simple, but remember the lot of takeaways that you're going to have today, and most important, to practice from today itself. All right. So start practicing all this from today itself. I'm sure you will see the results in the forthcoming tests, examinations, competitive examinations, not just restricted to this year, but also in the career that you're going to have later on. So let's now hand over the mic to Dr. Srivatsa and request him to kindly deliver this lecture. So I heartily welcome you, sir, and hand over the session to you all. And in the same way, I also welcome all the students and parents to this session, and also my other colleagues of Danadhara who have also joined. And please tell your friends, if the number becomes more than 100, you can also watch the same lecture on the YouTube. The link to the YouTube channel has been provided in the groups. So kindly go to the groups. You can also watch this on YouTube. All right. And it gets recorded and stays there, and you can use it any number of times you want later on. Okay. So with this, over to you, Dr. Srivatsa.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much, Dr. Raghavendra. Thank you for your kind words of introduction. And so let's begin where Dr. Raghavendra left it. In terms of how important this aspect of time management is at this particularly your +2 level, which is typically what Raghavendra and I keep discussing about, is that it's the most stressful time, in fact, as stressful as a CEO of a very successful company or even a startup. So with that kind of an idea, how do we tackle this particular issue and script your own success story? And that's what we are trying to look at. So there are few aspects that I can cover in the limited time that we have. And so not everything will probably be answered in terms of the questions that you may have. So the plan is to try and cover a few aspects and in about an hour, and then open it up for Q&A. So you can unmute and ask the questions at the end. And maybe you can also keep a paper and pen with you handy. So there's a small task that I would ask you to do, and that will be useful for you, a kind of reflection and discovering yourself in the process. Okay, so please keep the pen and paper handy. So that's the idea. It's time for success. So we need to kind of decipher what is success and in the process of that, we need to know how much time, how and when, all these aspects of it. Okay. So the first question which comes to all of us is, do you ever feel like there is not enough time in the day? All of us seem to question it, particularly at certain times, whenever we are in a hurry to do certain things and getting done certain things. And in the last minute, we try to do something, then you feel like as if there is not enough time in the day, right? So look at the coloring of that. So there is a feeling, and there is this negative feel, not, and the key idea is the time that you don't have. And it's always about a day. So we could have done something and that day is over and we feel that it was not enough. So that is the idea. And we want to see how this particular feeling can be addressed and to some extent get over it. And with practice, you should be definitely overcoming this feeling. So look at this particular statement from none other than Einstein. He says, I never think of the future, it comes soon enough. I think all of us have got through this. By the time I think of tomorrow, the tomorrow has arrived. And so that's kind of pun intended. And of course, don't go by never think of the future. And Einstein did speak more of the time and the relativity of time and all of that. So but this is contextually that how fast time flies, as if when we need time, it is not enough for us. So typically, let's look at, though I am many of the times, some of our friends and family confuse my doctorate to be not as a PhD, but as a medical one. So we always talk about symptoms when we go to the doctor. So this is the question, in a sense, in terms of those symptoms to the time doctor. And so do we have these symptoms? I procrastinate. What does that procrastinate mean? That I think that, okay, if I can do it now, I'll say, oh, I'll do it later. I'll do it tomorrow. I'll do it later, in the sense of the next week, next month, kind of things. And there is a constant rushing, which is the kind of last minute that we have always been seeing. And then this lack of energy and the impatience. Now, if you notice, the two words that I'm using are contrasting. So if you procrastinate, you will end up in constant rushing and finding it difficult to do certain things. And you sleep over certain things, and because you say, oh, I'm not having enough motivation to do things today, I kind of lack the energy needed. And then in the last minute, it will appear like, I'm very impatient and I'm trying to get things done in the last minute. Then why am I sleeping over certain things that could be done? Is because I don't have the clarity of what I need to achieve. And in the contrast, because of the impatience, I get to I need to face an exam. I need to face different types of examinations. So I start building up the stress, and then the blackout happens for some of us in the examination hall. And that is the challenge, right? And there is this another interesting thing, that I seem to not go beyond the first page or beyond the first chapter in any book, any subject. And that is because I seem to not understand completely. I'm stressing this word completely. So I read the chapter, I understand the chapter, but I don't understand it perfectly. So I keep going over this same chapter again and again and again till I become perfect. And that seems to never happen, because there's always a question, there's always a problem that I am not able to solve. And perfectionism is another, I'm using it not as in a good way, but some kind of a derogatory or something that is not necessary in this particular case, right? Because you seem to be not going forward at all. And that's the cause for the stress, the impatience, the constant rush to finish in the end, right? So these are the typical things. And there is an arrow on the right of your screen, which is trying to say that, okay, there is some kind of a flow in this. So because I procrastinated without the energy, without the clarity, kind of expecting some kind of perfectionism that doesn't come up, or I'm constantly rushing with impatience, develop stress, and I am not perfect either way, right? So these are the typical symptoms. Now, how do we overcome these? So there should be the prescription for this kind of, if you were to call this as a disease condition. So what is the method which can help us? What is the prescription that the doctor can give you? So what does the time doctor can give you as a prescription? So typically, as we said, perfection is what we were trying to do, but we said that's not the right thing because we never seem to go forward then. So we replace that word with excellence. So you can be excellent in something, but never perfect. Okay, there is a small difference between these two words, and we should really understand that difference. Most of us can become excellent with a lot of work, a lot of effort, and a lot of practice. And that's why I want to intend to develop excellence. Now, in order to develop excellence, I should have that goal and the need and the kind of desire to be able to excel. So therefore, I have to set that goal of that excellence. In order to be able to set that goal and the desire to be there, I should have the motivation. That means this motivation is simply some kind of a trigger, some kind of a boost. As we say in that advertisement, boost is the secret of my energy, your energy, our energy. So it's some kind of that lack of energy we mentioned earlier. We want to go over it, get over. And what is that motivation that pushes me towards getting to sort that? And therefore, if I have that motivation, then I need to plan to get the required excellence, right? So it's now the particular arrow, if you notice on the right part of the screen. Okay. Sorry, guys, there is some statement which says it's not able to, one of us students cannot hear. Are you on both the streams, Zoom and YouTube, Inchara? So either use one of that. If you're on Zoom, don't open the YouTube and try to. Is there anyone who can comment and say what is the audio quality?
Sir, it's good, sir.
Okay, fine. I think Inchara, please check your network and also any one of the solution. Okay, it has to be either YouTube or the Zoom. Okay, please look into it and check. Yeah, thank you, Ganesh, for confirming the audio quality. So let's continue. So we have the aim as excellence that I can get by setting a goal. And to be able to achieve that goal, I need to push myself. That's the motivation. And just the motivation is not enough because I need to achieve a particular set goal. And that means I need to know what are the milestones and when should I achieve, how to achieve. So therefore, there is a lot of planning that is essential. So to some extent, this is our prescription. But then prescription, we don't understand, right? The doctor's prescription, I don't think any of us understand except our the medical shops people there, right? So in that sense, this is also as to use Inchara's words, gibberish to our mind as of now. So we need to kind of break it up into further steps to see where and how these kinds of things can be brought in. And in that context, this is what is most important to get to understand what is called as the time matrix. Okay, So while I discuss this, please make sure that you have your pen and paper ready. Okay. So I'll give you first initially certain examples to understand this matrix. And so as you see, there are two axes. It's a two-dimensional thing in a matrix. So I have the x-axis and y-axis as if, and in the horizontal axis, I have the right side as important. The negative of it is the not important. And the positive y-axis, the vertical axis, is urgent, and the negative axis part of it is not urgent, right? So we understand these two words fairly well. So important and urgent is the piece of the graph here, which is, you can say in terms of quadrant, the first quadrant as we talk about in coordinate geometry, right? So important and urgent is our first quadrant. Not important but urgent is the, okay, I'm going in the typical sense of the anti-clockwise. Okay, so urgent and not important, and then there is not important, not urgent, and we know very well that this is the quadrant that I should never be in. But then we'll see what kinds of situations we might come up here. And then the last fourth quadrant, which is crucial for many of us, which is important but not urgent. Now, are there different kinds of things, instances, contexts in my life, in my day, that I have to encounter such kinds of things? And more importantly, to recognize that instant or that situation as any one of these four quadrants, right? So let me start with examples. So let's always start with the first quadrant. And so here we go. Very clearly, quenching the fire, obviously, right? You shouldn't be, it's urgent and important, otherwise it will kind of simply bring down the entire fort. So therefore you should quench. Answering the phone call, we don't know who is on the other side, or if you know, you don't know the purpose, so you should answer. Emergencies of various kinds. Then boarding a flight, I have given one example, obviously, right? You have the gates will close 45 minutes before the flight, and unless you're a VIP, which can wait for you. And we know we are not a VIP. And then, of course, urgent and important is our typical situation that we are facing. All of you on the other side of the screen is writing an exam. And that is very important and urgent because your life starts there on after the exam. What kind of courses and what colleges and the universities that the portals of that university you will enter and make a career out of that. So this is certain examples of that. And then let's see the next quadrant, urgent but not important, right? Okay, somehow it's going into, okay, it's going the other way, I think. Excuse me, we are going clockwise probably in this, I don't know, it changed. But let's see, it's important but not urgent, right? That means people think that it's not urgent. I want to be always doing urgent things, but obviously certain things are important, but maybe not urgent. Like for example, as you see here, exercise. We know exercise is a very good thing, but then we keep postponing it, or we'll say that now I'm fit and fine, so I don't need to exercise. But then eventually we have hurt ourselves over the years, and we know exercise would have been helpful for us. And preparation for all kinds of activities. If I don't prepare, I'm going to be not so good in the performance of various activities. Planning to do certain things, and planning to prepare, maybe planning of all the activities that you are interested in. And then understanding a concept. So here is important but not urgent. For example, some of us have a test tomorrow and we have to spend time trying to understand a concept, but that is going to take a lot of time because it's important. But the question is that for tomorrow I cannot help it, right? So therefore it's left for the final exam, so that you spend all your time planning how to spend time to understand a concept, and therefore see that you have a better hold on the understanding of this subject topic and everything. And then, of course, relaxation. A lot of us do not pay attention to this, like the one which I said first, the exercise. If we do not know how to relax, how to kind of sleep over it, certain things, a lot of disturbances keep coming to us. You get upset, you get to fight with someone, you get to shout at someone, and all kinds of things do happen. And then, so you are disturbed. Now, how to get over that? How to relax so that you can get out of all those thoughts in your mind and then bring the focus back to your learning, your study, and be at peace so that you understand better, right? Then you have not important, not urgent. This is the most interesting part, and you will see that a lot of us often sit in this quadrant, which is phone notification. So every time phone makes a beep, you will try and pull out, oh, what came up here? Oh, and then you do these kinds of things and say, oh, this is not important, that's not important. Or something is important, and you try to see the phone, which is definitely not important, not urgent. If it is important and urgent, they would have called you, right? Or they would have visited you. So therefore, it is not important, not urgent. Similarly, every time we have the social media updates that happen and they keep pouring in on all kinds of channels. And again, you want to be in the thick of action, and then you have this feeling of, oh, I didn't do this, I didn't do that. The rest of the world is enjoying while I'm sitting and suffering in my cozy room or in my stuffed room with only books and pen and paper and all of that. So these kinds of thoughts might come to some of you, particularly the 12th standard may not come across this, but 11th standard seem to still get over that holiday mood. So therefore, there is a lot of updates that you want to be watching, and that's where it's neither important nor urgent with respect to the goal that you have in mind. And then we brood over things, what happened, why it happened, how it happened, and you keep thinking about it without any always we keep saying, right? If you think about something where you cannot make a difference, does that thinking help anyone anywhere? So since we know it's not going to change the situation, so brooding doesn't help. That's one part of it, brooding, which is negative part. Then there is this positive part about daydreaming. We all sit and think of the nice things that happened to us in the day or in the past, or that might happen in the future. But I'll come back to this daydreaming part in a positive context if time permits in the later half. But we end up daydreaming, and in fact, this kind of thing happens in the class. Even now, some of you may be daydreaming in the evening. It will be daydreaming. So all these things can happen, and it is not important because, again, these thoughts don't help you, and it's not urgent because you're not going to achieve something out of that. Then the last quadrant, in the going by the clockwise, urgent but not important. So what are those situations? Certain interruptions. We are sitting and studying, someone comes and says, look, your friend has come, or come over for lunch or dinner, and then all of those types of interruptions which distract your mind, because you will have to answer your friend or parent or someone, but that's the interruption which has broken your thought, your focus, and all of that. But that's essential to address. Then searching on the internet. Sometimes you go on the search engines and you don't know what to search for. So you simply randomly type something, and then it's not known for what purpose are you searching which particular topic. So it is going to become as random as the social media updates that you end up seeing sometimes. Then coaching friends. Now, this is a very interesting and contrasting situation. Coaching a friend is urgent, I'm saying, but it's not important. How can this be? You're such a nice gentleman or a lady who is trying to help others. And that's what we taught you in the kindergarten, right? That you have to help everyone and help the needy. And this friend is in need, that he needs to pass the exam. But then what I mean by this coaching friends is that when you have your work to finish, don't try to help others to get their work done. And certain of the times, what happens is that they become the burden, and you would have not finished what you needed to finish. And then you go half baked, half prepared for the exam, while your friends are also similarly half prepared. So make sure that you finish your work and then try to help others, right? And then this is another very interesting scenario. Of course, in the 2 years when you weren't meeting everyone offline, you didn't have, almost everyone were meeting only online with Zoom or video calls and audio calls only. This meeting friends for notes became an excuse to meet. And this has continued, and I'm sure this is going to happen every time you have, I wouldn't use bunk the class, miss the class. If you have missed the class, you want to get the notes, and to get the notes you have to meet the friend. And that doesn't stop at just getting the notes, but it actually stretches to having some snack and discussion about someone. Remember, someone, not something or some topic, but ends up in discussing about someone. So these kinds of things become at that time urgent, but then it's not important. It has not added anything as the uh, kind of an outcome because of that action. So if we understand all these four different aspects of the time matrix, now if you notice in this particular thing, I have highlighted the word planning, because that's the major focus that I'm going to take you through in the next half an hour or so. Okay. But before we go into that, I want to do a simple exercise here, and I'll give you about 2 to 3 minutes, and you can ask questions on the chat box if any query about not able to understand or clarify something. Okay. So take your paper and draw this matrix. Name the axis: important, urgent, not important, and not urgent. Now, make a list of all the tasks. It is written on the screen. Make a list of all the daily tasks, activities, chores, whatever. Uh, in a day, you would have come across. In this week, you would have done certain things. Kind of recall those things. Put them into these four quadrants according to your understanding of this important and urgent, or not important and urgent. And so I want you to spend this 2 3 minutes. Okay, it's now 1934, that is 7:34. So I'll give you two minutes should be good enough, uh, because whatever the thoughts that come to you on the top of your head is what is going to help us. After that, you will start cooking the thoughts, which we don't want to, right, at this time. So at 1936, which is 7:36, I will continue. Till then, you have time to list all the tasks. Please go ahead and do it. And okay, so examples are here, just in case you want to clarify. Avoid using the same words that I have used. Fine. So I hope you have done the exercise and you have fairly collected certain number of tasks that you have done. And in these different tasks, you have actually also classified into these different quadrants. So that way you have certain clarity. I'm sure it's not in over a day or in this one session, you will be able to exactly put them into the quadrants. Some things appear to be in the this quadrant or that quadrant, and you also may have confusion between what is important versus what is urgent and things like that. Okay. Uh, so moving forward, so this is 1 second, right? Okay, so we said we have to plan, and I mentioned that planning is something that we should take it as the key idea from that slide going forward. So you have done some list of tasks, which was to classify them into various things. Now, what is planning and how do we plan? So the planning again starts with a list of tasks, but then now these list of tasks are not the same as what you have done in the past. It's a little more directed, and I'll come to those types of tasks that you will think about, and then you have to schedule them. Like every class is scheduled, right? There is a timetable, there is a certain thing that we will do, and it's not simply putting something into the timetable, but actually to prioritize. And that is the crucial part of the whole planning, prioritization of the tasks that you have come up with, to distinguish between what is important and urgent versus urgent and not important, or not urgent but important. Okay, because we don't want to be in the not quadrant. So therefore we have to be able to distinguish them and prioritize accordingly. And once we have done this, the last step would be to implement that. So what is the process we have described? But the next step is actually to find out how do we go about doing this. And that is the next step. So typically, what are the tasks that we are talking about? So I said, I'll give you some kind of a direction and some kind of a yardstick to kind of describe and classify the types of tasks. So the first thing is make a list of all the daily tasks that which we have to do, maybe to taking care of ourselves, the grooming that we have to take into account. So some of those daily tasks, study activity, all of that that relates to your academics, and the hobbies. And primarily, this is another interesting but very important part of it, is the time wasters. There are a lot of things that are going to be done by us which waste our time. Like, for example, if you say daydreaming is wasting time. Now, you can go back and say, oh, I saw the daydreaming in one of the quadrants. Where was that? It was in the not important, not urgent matrix quadrant. So therefore, you can say that many of this which you have done as classification into the time matrix, all that not important, not urgent tasks that you have put in there will be considered as time wasters. And in your daily routine, you will have some of these. Now you need to get to understand, realize, and see how to give that. And someone say, oh, these you which you call as time wasters is actually providing me relaxation. Now we don't know if that is giving you relaxation or more stress, because it's only helping you to procrastinate, for example. So we have to be careful in designing, describing what a time waster is and what relaxation or practicing a particular hobby is. So now when we say scheduling, that is very important part of it. We have made a list of tasks and now we need to schedule. This is where we have to be careful. When we need to schedule it, this is something that we come across, what is called as a lark or pole theory. And according to this guy, John Medina, in this book, Brain Rules 12 Principles for Surviving and Thriving at Work, Home, and School, he has kind of statistics which says 30% of the population is an owl or a lark, and lark is an early bird in the scientific literature. So, which means that kind of I am either an owl being awake in the night, right? Uh, don't go by the Kannada word, gube, right? So gube is used in a different context in Kannada, right? And most of you understand the Kannada and the context gube. Then, of course, I'm using it in a different context, that it is awake in the night. And the lark, which is an early bird, and that means it's awake in much earlier than anyone else. And the rest of us are somewhere in between, right? And here is what is this owl and the lark theory? Where is this connecting us to our daily routine? This is where one of the questions that I think Hemachandra asked, which is about how many hours of sleep, when to sleep, etc. Right? So here we have a lot of advisors, your parents, your teachers, and many of well-wishers will say that, oh, you have to get up early in the morning and study. That's the best thing. Most of them who have given you that advice have not practiced this at all. They're only simply parroting what they heard from their parents or their teachers and then just doing that. Now we are trying to bring in a certain kind of the body, the biological clock of individual, and trying to understand what is your clock, what is your individual clock trying to tell you, and how do we know what we are? Am I an owl or a lark, right? So to do that, there is a very simple trick, and I'll list a few things that will help us do that, which is trying to answer these two questions. One is when to study, which is that instant of time, as if in the physics context, we know that instant is not the same as duration, right? So when to study is the question, because that is where advice will come. Don't sleep late, get up early. And we quote an adage, which is early to bed and early to rise keeps, I forget that complete line, right? Early to bed, early to rise is something that I remember very well. And keeps a man healthy, or healthy, wise, and wealthy also, I think, something like that. So the instant of time and the duration of time, how much to study, when to study, which you can put a slash and put a sleep also, when to sleep, how much to sleep. I think this translates to Hemachandra's question. So in order to do that, let's see the owl and lark theory, what happens and how it works. So typically a lark is someone who wakes before 6 a.m., goes to bed by 9 p.m., and usually very alert around noon time, right? And then this is the adage which says larks catch the early worm. In contrast, the owl wakes after 10 a.m. Of course, you cannot do this because you have college to attend to. But then typically when on a holiday and you're studying the study holidays time, you most often wake up after 10 a.m., go to bed around 3 a.m., very alert around 6 p.m., and usually owls burn the midnight oil. Again, it's another adage that we have tried to use. So this is trying to understand your biological clock to answer the question when to sleep, when to study. What to study will come in the red letters that I have written, is something that when you are alert, you should do the best, the difficult tasks, right? Something that you should revise can be done at other times. But if you're learning something new, do it when you're most alert, right? So that you understand quickly, spend most valuable time in and get the best outcome of your learning and studying. So this is going to answer one of the questions, when, right? So I hope you understand the context and the kind of timing that is there. Now, this needs to be translated into our daily routine. Now, how does that happen is something that we need to think of. Now, the how of the technique, right? The duration of study, because instant, I said when to study, that we have discussed in terms of the owl and lark uh, kind of context and the example. Similarly, the part of how much should you study. And now here it's not the total amount of time, but I'm trying to break it down to how long should you study in a given certain period of time, which is called as the Pomodoro technique. And in this, it says about the 25 minutes of focused study, 5 minutes of resting. So that makes it about a 30 minute. Now, in the literature, you keep looking at this 25 and 5 as 20 and 5. And then you have, these days apps which can actually keep the count of this clock. You can switch off the network, everything, and then the app works only on your mobile. And you can keep track of this 20 plus 5 or 25 plus 5 minutes. Now, while you're working, it's very clear what we are studying, what we are doing. This 5 minute rest is something that I have to be very careful about. And what do I mean by rest? What do I do during this time is very crucial. And this 5 minute rest is not to go and watch a TV series, a Netflix or a Amazon Prime Video, or go and look at social media updates, but just take off your thing, because you've been sitting, you get up and move around, and your eyes have been focusing on the thing. So your eyes have been also stressed. So you look out, you look farther than 6 feet or 10 feet, so that it kind of relaxes your eyes. So your body gets to be active. It doesn't become kind of, sitting at one place for a long time will not put you into lethargy, but keeps you active by moving around, doing a little bit of stretching, and looking further than the about like infinity, focusing to infinity kind of relaxes the eye muscles, and therefore you should do that. And maybe a cup of water. And these days, with all the infections, everyone is going through coughing and other things, maybe a cup of hot water. And if you have anything as hot milk or hot thing, that all. But too much of that also might be a challenge. So make sure that you have a little of that to keep yourself active and awake. So with this technique, if you are able to do this, how many such 25 minutes? Am I suggesting only 25 minutes and 5 minutes and then sleep over the day? No. How many such 25 plus 5 will you do? And that is what you need to be worried about to keep yourself mentally fresh. Pick a task, set the timer, work on your tasks until the time is up, take a 5 minute break, and then last step, it says every 4 Pomodoro technique, the unit of time, take a longer 15 to 30 minute break and then come back. So in these 4 Pomodoros, which is like already 30 into 4, right? So that is already 2 hours. You take a little longer break, but then come back. So that means I'm going to suggest you to study, inhuman numbers also I can throw in. Do you study 18 hours a day? I can ask. But then that's a kind of demand over the period of time you will see. But then, of course, you're all not CEOs yet. But if you follow these techniques and planning and scheduling and prioritizing, you should be able to do it in a decent time with good sleep and rest and everything. Okay. So before just jumping to the next part of it, there is a chat question possibly. I cannot study after 11 p.m., but I'm able to study from 4 a.m. Should I study early morning at 4 a.m. or should I cultivate the habit to read after 11 p.m.? So this is a typical lark. I'm sure you will all agree. As I've read, he cannot study after 11. And so that means he's going to fall asleep and get up early morning before 6 a.m. So therefore, he is a lark, and therefore he should follow the lark's model. and then prioritize what we will study, when he will study accordingly. So don't change your, you said cultivate the habit to read after 11. Don't worry. Just continue to do what you're doing 11 to 4 and continue the study from 4 a.m. But make it work for you. That don't stretch your sleep from 4 a.m. to 5 a.m. by snoozing some number of times. Every time the alarm goes off, you will snooze it for the next 10 minutes, next 15 minutes. You shouldn't be doing that. You should jump out of the bed at 4. That should be good. Okay. So that was a good question. So we have, I think, kind of clarified our intent. And so here is the weekly planner. Now, this is a simple idea to just understand the tasks. We have written what are all the things that I need to study. For example, I have physics theory that I have to practice. So I have written PH for physics, TH for theory, chapter 5, CH for chapter and 5. Then similarly, physics, numericals I have to complete of chapter 4. Then like that, you have certain things for the board part of it, because board, I know that I have the audience which have both types of students, one who go to the PU board, which kind of has its regular, quarterly exams, midterm exams, and final exam every year, versus NIOS who have only one single exam. But then, guys, you know that we are giving you the tests every 2 weeks we have planned. So the next test should be coming to you soon. We'll schedule and let you know soon. Okay. So such kind of, you can put in different subjects. But then it's not only the school part, you're also attending Dhanatara classes, and then you have these competitive exam related stuff. So you may be attending a JEE program or a NEET program, Focus JEE or Focus NEET. So in that, you could put in physics or chemistry corresponding chapters, and then you say, okay, I'm going to solve JEE level questions from the Dhanadhara Scholar Companion that we have shared with you. So you will write corresponding things. Then you have the hobby, and I'm sure some of you or many of you would be taking up either an instrumental or a vocal in the cultural part of it, or you might be going for some kind of martial art or some other type of hobby that you have pursued, and you could continue that practice and you put in that also. Now, if you notice the set of numbers here, it lists about 8 of them. Of course, I could have listed 30, 50 also, because if you say my subjects are 6 of them in this college, and then JEE another 2 or 3 teachers are teaching the subject. For each of the teacher, I have to revise, and therefore I will say that I will have 6 into 6, 36 minimum number of things that might be happening. Now, putting everything into this list is going to be a disaster, because you will never find that time to finish even that one task that you have listed here, because you will start thinking that I have too much to do, too much on my plate, I won't be able to do, and you will go and sleep over it. You've done everything nicely, put in all the 36 different tasks, and then say, no, I can't do that. So that's why we want to put only a certain limited number of tasks. So that will be about 8. Some of them maybe depending on, you put first week 8. Remember the the title of the slide says weekly planner. So that means I'm going to plan for the week, not for the day. And I'm not going to plan for the month, because that's too long a time. One day is too short a time. 1 month is too long. So therefore, something in between we want to work. So the idea is to go and design the weekly planner. So we list between 8 to 10 tasks. And the next important thing that you should remember is that the next column where there is this red numbers with circles, these are the priority numbers. Now I have to put in the corresponding priority for the task. The task hobby is, for example, 8, NEET is 6, and I have put in, for example, the quarterly test is coming up in this month, let us say, again, for some of you in the college, and I need to prepare for that exam because the internal marks come through those tests. So that's becoming the priority for this week. Oh. Sorry, I think it has activated my digital pen. Okay. So the idea is to make sure that we have the task with the corresponding priority. And this priority numbers keep changing for different weeks. They will not be the same for every week, right? When I think last Saturday and Sunday, you had the JEE and NEET papers of Danatara. So that priority will become the highest on the, the last previous week where you had to study for this tests and exams and practice to get to score well in these exams. So that way, as you observe whatever is going to come in the future, you have a plan for it. And then you correspondingly put the time and the day of the week. So 6 to 7, 7 to 9, 9 to 4, which is college, then 5 to 6. So this is typical, right? 9 to 4 is a typical college. But then certain colleges may not work in this time, but other time. So that's why I'll share the next slide wherein the actual empty template will be given to you. And I'll share that in the group also. So the ma'am will post it to you in all the groups. I'm only in 1 or 2 groups, but not all. So she will take care of that. And you can print it, preferably do a printout, and you can actually get this and pin it up so that you know what to do for every day, every time, every moment as if is known to you. All right. And then look at the day of the week. I have written only an example of Monday. 6 to 7, you get ready. 7 to 9, we used to have JCE classes. We would take that. And then you attend college. This was in context to, I think, Vidyavardhaka. Many other colleges have the similar pattern. I think now we have only 1 session in the morning, 1 session in the evening. So correspondingly, you can change. Now I've written 5 to 6 p.m. relax. Oh, 1 hour of relaxation. That relaxation is your hobby practice, maybe, right? Or you come, get ready, and chat with your friends, chat with your parents, and everyone. And once done, all the snacking is done, then you have taken up the focus, bring back the focus to study. So 6 to 8 p.m. priority number 1 is done. So look at this. The way I plan is I have to put the first priority in the first place. I have to plan and finish that first. So that's why I put that. Then 8 to 9 is a repetitive, probably on a daily basis. I have to go to music at 8 to 9. This depends. I have just chosen one time. You have to put in corresponding time in your weekly planner. And then 9 to 10, 2 hours, which is so 1 hour, which is the priority 2, which is going to come up. And then from 10 to 11, you have another 1 hour, which I'm going to use for priority number 1. And these priority 1s can be many topics. As you see, task 5 and 6 have the same priority. So therefore, you have to see which one and correspondingly write down that also. Okay. And we'll come to that in the next template. So 11 to 12 again. So I have said up to 12 in the midnight, but then for the larks and the owls, this times can be different. So quickly, there is competitive versus PU board, which is more important, and how to manage both at the test time in the college. Good point. I get to this. I think to a certain extent, we are answering it here in the list of tasks. When I say there is a physics theory, that is the college, and JEE physics and chemistry, which is again competitive. So that way, while trying to check for the priority of the week prior to the exam, you should be able to plan and study accordingly. And these times are very crucial for us, and see how this can be mapped onto. Okay. So, okay, there's one more question. How to avoid sleep while studying? Good question. I'll come back to this question in a moment. Okay, so let's move on to the next slide. So here, okay, before jumping to the next, 6 to 7 I have written here, but the larks, like one of our friends on the message said, I get up at 4 a.m. So the larks get up before 4 a.m. and then they have this extra 4 to 6 a.m. Of study. And I have stopped at 12, and you know that owls can study up to 3. So 12 to 2 is the additional time that I have to put in, so that I get up late by 6 a.m. but study up to 2 a.m. or something like that, right? So the larks and the owls will have different time zones for this particular column. That is, I hope this gets to mark this one. It'll, oh, okay, it went on to news. Next slide. Okay, so this particular slide has to tell you how to plan. So if you notice, you can take a printout of this, or I'll see if I can also give a printout of this to Sudha ma'am, where she can share copies of this, and which you can make further copies and use it. One per week only, and you only have 52 weeks in a year, right? So so you put in your name, class, section. That's to say that, okay, and then the year, the month, and the week. So we know the focus. And I've given you tasks up to 20 here in this. That's because though we have listed 20, I would personally feel that don't go beyond 10 to 12. Okay, I said 8 in that earlier slide. So I can extend it up to, let's say, 50% more, 12 tasks, because you will have a lot of things, lab records, writing for the competitive exam and other things you mentioned. So up to 10 to 12, leave the others part of it. If you want to put in exercise, I am going to, yoga classes or gym, put in all of that, and that will be additional tasks that you can fill up to make it for 20. The study academic activity should not go beyond 10 to 12. Okay. So then you write down the subject here, which subject I'm going to study: physics, chemistry, bio, math, language, all of that, or computer science if you are taken up that, or electronics, and then the activity corresponding to that. And I give you examples of what will I do in that particular corresponding subject, a chapter, and am I doing theory or numerical or the JEE NEET type of problem solving, right? So that is the level of description of the activity that is going to set my goal with clarity. So once that is done, then you have this PR number, which is your priority. Now this priority will help us among the list of tasks, which one I should finish fast and first. Once that is set, then you have the column called time slot. This time slot is the first slot in the top will be your waking time. Let us say 6 to 7, right? And that 6 to 7, I think on presentation mode, I cannot write. Otherwise, it would have been, no, God, it went off to, no, like this. All right, let's keep it here. So the time slot is, sorry, the waking up time, that is either 4 a.m. or 6 a.m. or if you are not having college, 8 a.m. maybe. But then that's where the week, as per the week, you have college or not having the college, you can plan. So you put the time slots, and depending on these 20 time zones that you can create, you can divide it into, you don't have to put in every hour here, because college can be just taken up for 2 boxes, let us say, just at most, okay, or one box for college, 9 to 4, 8 to 4, something like that. And then the JCE classes in the morning and afternoon, or any other hobby practice in the morning, afternoon, evening, early morning or late evening kind of thing. And then you notice that from Sunday to Saturday, we have the day of the week. Excuse me. So from Sunday to Saturday, you put in this kind of plan, which activity goes into which slot in your time, either in the morning or in the after the college in the evening, right? After all the things are filled up, you will have a plan for the week. So now the question is, when do you do this planning? How much planning should I do? How much time should I spend doing this plan? Often the plan is made based on what I am supposed to achieve. One is, if there is no test, no exam, uh, of course, then it will become difficult. But often we know the next test is already announced. Sandhya ma'am has already posted, I think, in your groups that there's going to be a CET question paper given in this next week, JEE paper in the other week. So you already know that it's going to come, and there is a kind of a periodicity for that. So you know that this week I have to focus on CET or this. And then you also know the college calendar. So you know when is the next test coming up, when is the, of course, ignore the surprise test. So we are not handling the surprises in this plan. If you can plan for surprises, then it's not really a surprise, or it's not a plan. So therefore, we don't worry about those surprises, which the college teachers may want to give you. But otherwise, you have the plan based on your expected outcomes for the week after that, right? So you prepare for that. So this way you put in the week. Now, what do I put in the week? It's not 1, 2, 3. You can put the dates corresponding to that week. So today is 7th, the Sunday was 4th. So this would have been 4th to 9th plan, right? So 9th will be, is the 9th Saturday? Yes, 9th will be a Saturday. So therefore 4th to 9th would be the plan, and you put that 4th to 9th September 2022, or the year is there separately. So therefore you don't have to worry that detail. So you fill in this part. And I would suggest I also share another, maybe I'll fill it up and take a scan of it and show you a typical plan of this. And you can also compare your plan and see how to improve that. And often, if you can get used to this plan, you will observe that you are going to benefit eventually. Initially, you are going to change your plan. The way you are working now is some kind of a plan. Even though you don't plan it, it is some kind of a plan. Now, you're going to give it a certain structure, certain meaning. That is not kind of digestible to the body, the mind, because it is changing it. It's the inertia of the body and mind, right? You've learned about inertia already. So therefore, you might tend to give up this after the first week because it didn't work for you. Don't worry, it will not work for the first week. Either you will over plan or under plan. Either it will appear to be very easy and you think that I have finished everything in the list of tasks and therefore I don't need this plan. Or I will plan, over plan, and I kind of control every half an hour, and therefore I won't do, and I get frustrated and I give up. So there are two ways of giving it up, and we should avoid that. So be patient and give it, let's say, 3 weeks. 3 weeks is 21 days. And we know that for any habit to become part of your routine, you should provide at least a 21-day window. So therefore, I urge you all to give this 3-week the plan. In fact, if I were to be doing offline, I would give you 3 sheets of this, or one extra one to do with me on that day in the workshop, and then 3 more to actually make a plan for yourself for 3 weeks, so that you at least do for 3 weeks. After that, it becomes a habit and becomes a routine, and you will see the results of this plan becoming very obvious. Okay, so with this, I would say, now to some extent how to handle the time, and therefore best wishes to plan your day, your week, and your entire study, right? In the process, I had this question, this how to avoid sleep while studying. I think all of us have got this question and have suffered this situation. And I have a lot of things to study, but I'm feeling sleepy. And it only increases when the exams are coming up, right? And we know that. And all our parents have been complaining that exam barutte andre saku nidde jasti aitu anta, right? So you're not alone, Disha. We all are with you in this problem. So, and precisely for this purpose, we had this situation to be handled by the, let me go back to the Pomodoro technique that I mentioned. So if you study, focus for 25 days, 25 minutes, and then take 5 minutes rest. This rest is not to lie down, by the way, okay? It is, as I said, stretching yourself, moving around, taking a sip of water, a glass of water, hot water or hot milk or hot anything that keeps you awake, right? So this 25 minutes is to break that monotony, after which, if you continue, you will end up kind of, in a certain type of routine where you will start falling asleep. Sometimes within 5 minutes, you will start falling asleep because you're trying to focus so much that it will go into a kind of dhyana ಅವಸ್ಥೆ ಹೋಗ್ಬಿಡ್ತೀರಾ. ಧ್ಯಾನ ಅವಸ್ಥೆಯಲ್ಲಿ ನಿದ್ದೆನೆ ಮಾಡೋದು ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ನಾವೆಲ್ಲ, ಯಾಕಂದ್ರೆ ನಾವೆಲ್ಲ ಅಷ್ಟೊಂದು ದೊಡ್ಡ ವ್ಯಕ್ತಿಗಳಲ್ಲ ಅಲ್ವಾ. ಸೊ we often go off into the sleep mode. So typically you have to keep yourself active, and that activeness comes from keeping yourself doing this 20 plus 5, 25 plus 5 type of this. Give it a try, and I urge you that this will eventually help and get over these, either the sleep thing or the other things. Okay, interesting. How does power nap increase our efficiency? Only if you know how to do a power nap. A lot of times the power nap kind of simply reduces to the full 2-3 hours of sleep, and then you start really getting frustrated that you lost the time that you planned and all that. So unless you know what is power nap and how to take the power nap in 15 minutes, 10 to 15 minutes, and if you don't get up fresh and energetic, don't try it. Get trained to do it, and then only take up this power nap. Okay, but of course, definitely it will increase because you're always fresh. Because often after lunch, if you have planned to study, you must have been definitely observing that you struggle to keep yourself awake. At that time, if you just give it a 5-minute nap, and but then remember, you have to get out of that 5 minute after 5 minutes, because if it continues beyond certain duration, then your body goes into the lethargic mode. So it doesn't have any efficiency. That sleep is a waste of sleep and waste of time also, because you wouldn't get any rest because of that sleep. Okay, so keep that in mind. Okay, that's it from my end. I'll share the week planner.
Thank you so much, sir, for wonderful presentation on the time management. Students, ask questions now. If you have any, please feel free to ask. You can unmute. I hope you can.
Yeah.
Prajwal sir, ensure that they can actually unmute. Okay, and unmute, yes, and ask the question. Or you can also put it on the chat.
Correct.
And you can also give your feedbacks, by the way. Students, do feel free to give your feedback as well. For his time, for his energy, and for his wonderful talk, and also the amount of say information that you got, and also the tips. I would say you should now make use of it. Especially this week planner is so important. Okay, start doing that. And as sir says, 21 ದಿನದ ಮಂಡಲ ಪೂಜೆ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರೆ ಅದೊಂಥರ ಅಭ್ಯಾಸ ತರ ಆಗ್ಬಿಡುತ್ತೆ. ಸೊ ಮಂಡಲ ಪೂಜೆ ತರ 21 ದಿನ ಮಾಡಿ, and you can see the benefits. ಓಕೆ, ಯಾರನ್ನ ನೀವು ಶಾಸ್ತ್ರ ಕೇಳಕ್ ಹೋದ್ರೆ ಅದು ಹೇಳ್ತಾರೆ ನೋಡಿ, 21 ದಿನದ ಮಂಡಲದ ಪೂಜೆ ಮಾಡಿ ಅಂತ. ಹಾಗೆ this is also something like that. Make 21 days. Try this out and see how it works. Okay, please do feel free to also contact Srivatsa sir in case you have any issues. You can get actually number from either Sudha ma'am or from myself, and we'll be very happy to share his number with you. Okay, so with this, and also thank you all the students for attending this program in good numbers. We hope we'll be able to also do more such programs. Hemant actually has anything. Hemant has anything to say?
No, sir.
Okay, fine. Yeah. So also I will thank Sudha ma'am and Prajwal sir for organizing this program. So all the best. And then start your plan from now. Okay, your plan should start from perhaps 8:30, and then go and then do at least 1.5 or 2 hours of study today. All the best and good night. Thank you very much.
Thank you all. Good night.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.